So we met on Monday morning, and as we were talking, and I explained to her, update my resume. I have to leave. And she said, sure, but first we need to understand your brand. I was in my mid-30s. I had MBA, managing global teams, and I never thought of myself that I have a brand. What does it mean? We need to understand your brand. So she asked me some questions that I believe changed my life. And the questions were things similar to what is the value you're bringing that nobody else has? How are you different? How are you being perceived by others, and how do they describe you?
Hey, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for tuning into the Five Flavors, a podcast where we talk all about happiness, how you found it, how you keep it, and how it's changed. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to sit down with global influencer, three-time TEDx speaker, executive coach, award-winning author of Breaking Vases, Shattering Limitations, and Daring to Thrive, and The Wild Element. It's time to rise. Dima Ghawi, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. I'm so excited.
Well, I am so thrilled to have you here. I just finished reading your book. And for all of our listeners, we're going to drop the link in the description so you too can read this. It's a quick read. It's all about courage and empowerment, and I absolutely highly recommend it. But if it's okay with you, since this is a short podcast, we're just going to dive right in.
Yes, let's get started.
Perfect. I'm going to ask you our signature question. What are your 5 flavors of happiness, and how did you find them?
Oh, wow. I love this. Okay, first visual that comes to my mind is Christmas, all the family sitting together. We're laughing, being playful. It's cold outside, but it's warm, and we can smell all the amazing food. So it's family and love and community, which is like so important for all of us. The other one is waking up on Monday morning and being happy. And that is like, to me, a big deal because for many, many years, I had jobs that I didn't like, and I would be crying on Monday morning going to work. But then now, because I am so aligned with my purpose, I wake up and I'm like, let's go. This is so exciting. The third one is the sense, the moment you complete something so meaningful. And so it's like giving birth to something new. It could be a baby, it could be other things. In my situation, it was the moment I got a box in the mail and I opened it and it had the first copy of Breaking Vases. And I remember holding it. Really, it felt like I gave birth to something that I absolutely love. And then the other one, and I feel is so important, especially in the world we're living in right now, is the sense that I belong. So I belong in a certain community. I belong in it's just like feeling that I fit instead of being always, the outsider. And now I'm so glad we're having more and more of these conversations. But to me, being a Middle Eastern in the US, I feel I don't belong in Middle Eastern culture. I don't belong in the American culture. I lived in Japan. I didn't belong here. So whenever I do feel that I belong, it's just, I just love it. And then the fifth one is when I'm just being playful, like being a child. I remember when I was a little girl, I would not feel time go by as I'm playing with my cousins and my siblings. And I felt that I lost that. Life became so structured and busy, and we had to be adults. Until just last year, I was asked to do an acting role in a pilot for a murder mystery. And it was so much fun. It was like an adventure. I felt so playful, being in the moment, being in the flow. And I don't remember last time I had that until I was a child. So I was just so happy. So here are my flavors.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk to you about, I feel like what you're talking about being playful, you can't really be playful unless you're your authentic self, unless you let all your guards down. So talk to me about finding your authenticity.
Wow. I think that as if it is our purpose as each human, because we're born into this world and we're taught who we should be, how we should act, even for women, like how you should dress, how you should speak, how you should walk, all of these things. And early on in our life, we lose it. So to find our authenticity first is to really start questioning why we're doing things a certain way, and to start looking for people that are doing things differently, that are challenging the norm, that could be our role models. But the big part is to give ourselves permission to be our authentic self, to be who we are, because we all know who we're supposed to be, even though externally we're getting all of these messages like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, and it reflects internally and we start believing it. So finding our authenticity is to listen deeply to who we are and to be okay if we're different instead of becoming the voice internally, even putting ourselves down more. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not in the right height, right shape. And of course, comparing ourselves to others, it is to give ourselves time, listen to who we're supposed to be, who we are, questioning who's around us and the things we're told, and also to look for people that are different and just be around them.
Awesome. So I want to talk to you about that inner monologue.
Oh, yeah.
The inner monologue that all of us, we all have it. You can't do it. Don't do this. Nobody in your family has ever done this before. And growing up, and for our listeners, you'll learn so much about how Dima grew up if you read her book. Growing up in that restrictive environment, in a really patriarchal society, where women could only, your expectations could only take you so far. How did you find the courage to change your inner monologue?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I don't know if it is the courage. It does take a lot of courage. It also takes a lot of healing. So in my situation, yes, I had all of these negative thoughts that were always in my head, that especially when I challenged the norm, like I would wake up feeling guilty many times, and I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, why am I feeling so guilty? Why am I feeling like a bad person? I didn't do anything wrong. It is all of these programming. So in my first thing is to start listening to this voice and to start questioning, whose voice is it? Is it really my voice? Is it my mom's voice? Is it my grandmother's voice? Who is speaking in my head? Because and many times, like, we're taking the messages other people tell us and we believe them, especially if they are in an influence role, like they're a parent, they're a teacher, they are a doctor, they are various things, and we absolutely believe them. So in my situation, what truly helped me was going through major healing and having a wonderful therapist that I got to work with. I don't believe managing this monologue, I was able to do it on my own. Definitely not. It's not, especially where I come from and dealing with all the abuse and the terrible things in my childhood. So with my therapist, what we did is, and I had multiple ones, is we would do a lot of inner child work. So we would go back to the memories when I was a little girl, and I would remember certain experiences that shaped me to be who I am today, not in a good way. So like the ones that are where the message started. And we would work with me. I know it sounds weird, but like we would work with my inner self and we reprogram the stories I was told. Even we would change the situation I was in to make it a better situation, a more empowering situation. It's interesting how the brain works, because before I did all of this work, I would go to that moment in the past and that was my reality. And as a result, I grew up and it continued to be my reality. But when we go back to the childhood and we change the message, even we change the experience and make it a fun, a more exciting experience, I became happier. I became more connected with other people. I didn't need to hide a piece of myself anymore. And I'm not saying I don't have this monologue. It comes to my head every time before I get on the stage. Do people really need to hear my story? Or what do I have to share with them that they don't know? Like, we all have these messages. It's a matter to recognize it will always be there, but we're just going to keep moving forward. We cannot let this voice stop us, but we have the power to heal it. We just need the right people to guide us.
Awesome. So I want to talk to you about your purpose and getting on that stage and sharing your story, because I think your story is so impactful for so many people, because we all have our own vases. We all have our preconceived notions of what we're supposed to be, who we're supposed to be like, whether it's our parents or society, and whether you're a man or a woman, it really doesn't matter. Everyone has their own vase. So tell me a little bit about finding your purpose, because you seem just so happy when you talk about it. And it must have been amazing to leave those jobs that you said that you didn't like, where you dreaded Monday mornings, to waking up on Monday morning and being happy.
Yes. Oh, wow. Okay. So where it started is I had an amazing job in terms of what society defines an amazing job. I was making 6 figures. I had amazing benefits. I was managing global teams, traveling around the world, building relationships with suppliers and business partners. So whenever you look at that, you're like, wow, like, what are you complaining about? But every time I was on calls with my team, I would just feel that I did not fit in that environment. I was managing a global team of engineers. And my personality is I just don't fit with the structure and it just did not fit. I didn't understand that. I just thought there's something wrong with me. Like, why are they so good at this and they get it so fast while it's taking me forever to understand certain things? So one day, I was in North Carolina and it was Saturday night. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I went on Google and I was searching for an executive coach. I wanted somebody to update my resume so I can just quit and find another job. So we met on Monday morning, and as we were talking, and I explained to her, update my resume, I have to leave. And she said, sure, but first we need to understand your brand. I was in my mid-30s. I had MBA, managing global teams, and I never thought of myself that I have a brand. What does it mean? We need to understand your brand. So she asked me some questions that I believe changed my life. And the questions were things similar to what is the value you're bringing that nobody else has? How are you different? How are you being perceived by others, and how do they describe you? I was in my mid-30s. I went home and I cried because I did not understand how I am different and what is the value that I'm bringing. I was taught all along, you work hard, you go to work first, you leave last. And of course, with virtual, I worked on the weekends, I worked at night, I worked all of this. I was working hard, but I was so unaligned with who I am as a person and my brand. So with working with her, it was a matter of us digging deep into these questions. It took us over a year. And one of the things we did was a 360, which means getting input from other people about how they perceive me. And so she would ask them these questions. Many times it was surveys, but sometimes she would meet with them and ask them about me. And she would say, how do you perceive Dima? What words do you use to describe her? What value does she bring? How is she different? And the shocking thing was how amazing the response was. Here I was putting myself down, thinking I'm not good enough, thinking that everybody is smarter, while my team, my manager, my people that reported to me, even friends, past coworkers, they would say, wow, she is always empowering me. She's coaching me. We love to hear her present. And I'm like, really? Like, whoa, I thought everybody does that. I thought it is so common. There's nothing unique about it. But apparently, that was my uniqueness. So when we discovered my uniqueness, and again, it is empowering others, helping them to discover their limitations, shattering these limitations, developing them, helping them to discover their leadership potential. So I started doing a lot of work for free. Anybody who needed a mentor, I would mentor them. Any school or university wanted somebody to go and speak to the students, I would do it. And I have to share just the fact that I was getting closer to my purpose. It doesn't mean that it goes smooth and everything is great. I was horrified of public speaking, like so horrified that I would cry for a week before every speech. I would cry on my way to the speech, go to the restroom, fix my makeup, and get on the stage. One time I was in a taxi and driving to a conference location, and I was praying the entire time that the taxi would get in a horrible accident. So I would be badly injured. So I would end up in the ER, and I would call the client and say, I really would have loved to be there and present, but you see, I cannot move. So I would rather be there than be on the stage. So with this journey, I realized that when I was doing things that are aligned with what we were discovering in our coaching, I was, after the speech, I was at a high. I was filled with so much energy. I was being playful. I wanted more of it, even though it was horrifying. But when I go to work and I was doing the job, even though I was treated great by my company, I was at a low. I was drained. I was not aligned with what I'm supposed to do. So it took a few years, and then I got to a point where I couldn't do my job anymore. So I decided I have two choices. I can either quit and sell everything and move to Taiwan to a Buddhist monastery and just live there for a year so I can discover more of myself, or I can find a job that obviously would pay my bills and would help me to do the things more about training and development and helping people. So I went on the intranet and for my company, and I searched for jobs, and I found a job. It was a talent development manager in Louisiana. I applied. Everything went so smooth. I was selected, and I did that. I loved it so much, to a point that after a few years, I quit and I started my job doing all of these things. So again, it's not like we wake up in the morning and we know what we're supposed to do. Sometimes we need some guidance, maybe a book we read. But to me, I needed that coach, and I needed to take to challenge myself to do things that I'm not comfortable with, like the fear of public speaking. I had to do, as I mentioned, to test it, like a little sample by giving free coaching and free everything. But then finding a bridge to my purpose. And the bridge was that job, in a way to test myself. Is this really what I'm supposed to do? And then find the courage that you talked about earlier to quit corporate world and do this on my own. And it's been 9 years. So next week, it's going to be 9 years. And I can't believe how it went by, and I love it.
That's wonderful. Leaving corporate is, I can't imagine how scary that must have been, because there is such security when you're in the safety net of knowing I have a 401k and I'm going to get paid every other week and I could go to the doctor. So kudos to you. But it's what I found so interesting about what you were talking about is when you're in the flow, like when the energy, everything, like you got the job, you moved to Louisiana, everything seemed to fall into place. It's kind of like the universe helps us as when we are putting out the effort. And sometimes there's walls when we're being disingenuous and we don't understand the hurdles along the way. But talk to me a little bit about, in one of your flavors, you had mentioned the feeling of belonging. And you kind of echoed that throughout our conversation about how you didn't feel like you belonged when you were with the engineers. And sometimes creative personalities, it's harder to fit because we don't live in the box.
Yes.
So talk to me about creating a space or finding the space where you feel comfortable. You feel like you're not the other. that you're absolutely essential?
Oh my goodness, that is just such a
Sorry, I wasn't on our
such a
pre-list.
question. Okay. So when you were talking about the space, the first thing that came to my mind is home. So obviously I belong in my home. So I create this, and like my sign, astrology sign is Cancer. So Cancer, we love. Oh, great. Happy birthday. So we love our space. We love our home. And to me, of course, whenever I need to feel feel myself, feel like who I am, and I'm just home. But now when I'm talking about the world and how I would fit, the first thing is I always think about the five questions like the questions I mentioned earlier is what is the value I'm bringing? Because I want to be in an environment where I'm adding value. Instead of waiting for the world to make me feel I belong, I want to take it the other way. I want to see what is the value I can contribute to the world. That is the first thing. And then the second thing is to go look, I call it look for my fellow misfits. So I'm a misfit. I just don't fit anywhere. And I'm looking for other people that are that could be my tribe. So they could be in terms of artistic talent. They could be in terms of a certain hobby. So I look for these people, and it's so amazing how many times, like when I found my people, how it fits so easily. It doesn't require effort. And I'll give you an example. I went to networking events so much in the past. But when I started thinking about becoming a speaker, I discovered that there is an association for speakers, and they have one in New Orleans that was about an hour from my home. So I decided to just go and explore. I went to their event and I sat in the back row, totally silent. Everybody was speaking, but I felt so much that I belonged. I didn't know anybody. They didn't know me. I was sitting in the back being quiet, but it's just the energy. I knew that these are my people. This is my tribe. And of course, as I started interacting with them, that confirmed to me more and more, first, that this is my purpose. That's what I'm passionate about, because now I'm starting to see role models, other people that went through a similar journey, that maybe didn't fit in their job. Maybe they were horrified to start their business. So I wasn't alone anymore. And that gave me, even like fueled me with even more courage to do what I'm supposed to do. So this is what I'm thinking. Like, think of your value, find your fellow misfits. And it's so important. And we were talking about earlier, don't doubt yourself. It's easy for us when we are different to quickly doubt ourselves. It's just like a piece of puzzle. When you're thinking about it, maybe I don't fit as a piece of puzzle in this puzzle, but maybe I fit in this other puzzle. So think about whenever you play puzzle, if you're trying to put a piece in a place where it doesn't fit, you can just keep squeezing it. And of course it may break, but it will never, ever, ever fit there. But it's going to have a place in another puzzle. But when you put it, it's just going to be like, so now what is the journey? Like, what do we need to do to be patient, not to put ourselves down, and to be in search, like we're searching for that spot, because this is our spot. This is where we fit with our people, with the shape, with the colors. And it's just a matter of getting there instead of cutting ourselves.
Awesome. Okay, do you have 2 more minutes for our fast round?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is the part of the podcast where I ask really quick questions, and then you just give one word or one thought answers.
Yes.
I am happiest when?
I am happiest when I am around people I love.
Awesome. The best way to find happiness is?
The best way to find happiness, I don't know. It is to, I guess best way is to be in the moment.
Awesome. I love that. If happiness was a place, where would it be?
Okay. 2 answers. One, again, being around, it's a place which is my mom's home. But the funny answer is it would be first class flight, being on first class ticket on an international trip to Europe.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, curveball. What's the one piece of advice you would give your 8-year-old self?
That things will get bad, but I have the power to create my own story. I have the power to create my own destiny. And even though there's part of the journey is going to be painful and sad and I'm going to cry, but that's not where it's going to end. That's part of it. And then I have the power to rise.
Awesome. And very last question. If happiness was a flavor or a food, what would it taste like?
It would be the meal on the first well, I forgot what it's even called. First class ticket to an international trip to Europe. The meal.
Oh, that's awesome. Whatever they serve, I'm just
gonna taste so happy.
So Dima, thank you so much for your time today. This was such a great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed having you on.
Susan, thanks for the opportunity. I loved it.
Beautiful. And folks, thank you so much for listening. Please tune in and don't forget to subscribe so that you could be alerted when our next guest comes. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night.